An inmate accused of smuggling drugs into Guam through his rectum has penned a heartfelt letter to a federal judge in a last-ditch effort for reduced jail time ahead of his sentencing hearing. Here's more.
John Paul Marquez pleaded guilty earlier this year to charges of possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine. In his letter, he tells Chief Judge Francis Tydenko Gatewood that he is not the monster a pre-sentence investigation report paints him to be. In his handwritten letter, Marquez starts by apologizing to the judge, saying, quote, "I've been off drugs since I was arrested. Only now do I realize the negative impact drugs has on families," end quote. Marquez says he needed to explain his side and even went into his criminal history. Marquez has served time twice for 2 separate aggravated assault cases, but he gave a full explanation as to how the assaults started, noting that, quote, "I am not a fighter, boxer, or martial arts trainee. I am a cook. I do not know how to stand face to face with another person and exchange blows," end quote. Marquez disputes some of the statements made about his assault cases. For example, in one case, he says, quote, "Your Honor, I did hit Oscar Cruz with a stick, but the report says he was preventing me from hitting the kids. This is not true. I would never try to strike kids. I make no excuses, though, and I pray to God to forgive me," end quote. He then goes on to explain how he got involved in drugs and how he got his hands on an illegal firearm that was found in his home during a police raid. He says that after he was released from prison in 2011, his grandmother and close friend passed away within a few months. Marquez says he began using alcohol to deal with stress. Then about a year later, he admits that he began using ice again. Then he says his mother started to get sick and would travel to Manila often for medical reasons. He says his parents then revealed to him that they were broke and were going to file for bankruptcy. Because of a gambling problem and a drug problem, Marquez admits that he hatched a plan to smuggle drugs into Guam. Quote, "I never tried to bring big amounts into Guam. I never tried to give my parents money to pay their mortgage. They would never accept such drug money anyway. I never tried to put money away in banks or buy cars or jewelry. It was just enough to pay what I owe in PI and gamble at the game room. Then to buy me a ticket back to Manila," end quote. Marquez then explains that the firearm that was found during a raid was sold to him from a friend. He says he tried to get the firearm legally transferred to his father's name, but he says his friend was desperate to trade the gun for drugs. "Your Honor," he says, "I never carried the guns around or threatened anyone with it. I never pointed it at anybody," he says. "Even though my intentions were good, it doesn't change the fact that it was very illegal," he admits. He goes on to acknowledge the blessing in disguise behind his arrest last year, noting that had he not been arrested for smuggling drugs into Guam, quote, "I would have continued to travel to Manila and bring drugs into Guam. I also believe that I would have been dead today because of all the drug killings going on in the PI," end quote. Marquez says he's changed his life around, and although he asks for consideration in his sentence, he also says, quote, "Your Honor, I deserve whatever you decide to give me. I did some violent things in my past. Now it's coming back to haunt me," end quote. He adds that it hurts to know that he can't be there for both his parents when they need him the most. But, quote, "I have hope and I have faith in God," end quote.
Marquez's sentencing hearing is scheduled for October 20th.